Yeah, I think you gotta be careful what you wish for. Because all along we've been saying, wouldn't it be delightful to have some sort of reenactment? If the Commonwealth thinks that John O'Keefe was hit by Karen Read's car and he sustained the injuries, those scratches up and down his arm from the taillight, surely you would be able to show us how it happened. Computer animation, AI generation, use test dummies, I don't give a shit, but show us some sort of reenactment. And what we got was some guy dressed in John's clothes with blue paint on his arm. Like, that's your reenactment? So in my opinion, Aperture is going to have a really hard time getting business after this. But Dr. Welcher takes the stand yesterday, and he's supposed to talk about three things. One, he's supposed to talk about the key cycle date, and he's supposed to try and line up 1162 and convince us that that's when all this took place. We already know that's not the right key cycle, but I'll talk about that in a minute. He's supposed to talk about the moment that Karen's car hits John's car that morning in the driveway, and then he's supposed to explain to us how he thinks John sustained those injuries by getting hit by Karen's SUV. Full disclosure, I am not an accident reconstructionist. I am not an expert witness, but I have eyes in my head, I can see. And based on the evidence that Dr. Welcher is providing, he's trying to have it both ways, and you can't have it both ways. Okay, I'm gonna start here because I think this is a great visual of the car. And he made this point of saying that the tail light, it protrudes a little bit, and then there's like this inner part that kind of divots in, and then the bumper protrudes as well. And if you look at this, I mean, just to the naked eye, these look pretty perpendicular to each other. The edge of the tail light looks like it's about even with the bumper. But he testifies that it's impossible for Karen's tail light to have hit John's car because he says the bumper protrudes too far. So the bumper hit before the taillight even got close enough to hit. So he's making it sound like the bumper sticks out way further than the taillight, almost like it's like this, right? Like the bumper sticks out, the bumper would hit before the taillight. But then when he's talking about John being hit, he reverses that and says, well, the taillight would have hit his arm because the taillight protrudes so much. So you can't have it both ways, dude. They're even. They're both going to hit at the exact same time. Now that brings me to this picture. This is my favorite. I mean, you know, let's all go cosplay as John O'Keefe. I mean, why would you buy his same exact clothes? Like, this is so stupid. Anyway, I love this because he claims to be right about the same height as John. Okay, great. I'll give him that. Here he's got the cocktail glass in his hand, and he says basically the tail light hit the arm part, and that's what shattered the tail light. But you can see right here, this part of John's body would have been severely damaged because this car was going 24 miles an hour. This guy, his experiment was 2 miles an hour. You can see going 2 miles an hour, it, you know, brushed me back and caused me to lose my balance. This part of John's body right here would have been terribly injured. And I don't know if we're talking like broken femur, hip dislocation, something. Can I at least get a fucking bruise? I mean, just give me a bruise. Give me a bruise to show me that John was hit by this bumper. He wasn't. And again, when you saw the paint went from the upper part of his upper arm around the elbow and down to part of the forearm, which would kind of be that exact area where the scratches were, right? But what broke the taillight, right? They haven't given us any indication of how an arm can break a polycarbonate taillight and not have any other injuries other than a scratch. Again, that arm probably would have been fractured. Bones would have been broken. This would have been horrific if his arm was hit hard enough to break this taillight. The impact strength of polycarbonate is 250 times greater than glass. And the glass broke when it was in his hand and it hit the back of the car and left that ding in the back of the car, which means his arm would have had to have taken 250 times the impact that the glass took. And you're gonna fucking tell me he doesn't even have a broken bone or a dislocated elbow or a dislocated shoulder? It's impossible. That it is also pliable, which means it dents rather than breaks. It's not like polycarbonate to shatter like acrylic would. Now let's talk about the key cycle data, because I feel like every single time the Commonwealth witnesses talk about this, they dig themselves into a bigger hole. They're trying so hard to match up certain things that it's like they're matching this one thing and then they forget that 75 other things don't match up, and they don't seem to care. So again, Dr. Welcher is like, this all happened during 1162. Now, according to the earlier testimony, Trooper Paul insisted that all of his testing happened during 1164, We've all said you can't go from 1162 to 1164 with all that other activity in between. It doesn't match up. If the incident at 34 Fairview allegedly took place during 1162, that means 1163 would have been Karen driving to Jen's house the next morning. And 1163 would also contain a trigger event because that's allegedly when Karen hit John's car. So there would be a trigger event in 1163. 1164 is when they came back from Jen's back to John's. 1165 would have been when Karen's dad drove the car to Dighton. 1166 would have been when they put the car on the tow truck. 1167 would have been when they took the car off the tow truck and pulled it into the Canton Sallyport. So 1168 would be when Trooper Paul did his testing. Fantastic. Show us the key cycle for 1168. Or, hear me out. 1164 was when Paul did his testing, which means 1163 was when they pulled the car off the tow truck. 1162 was when they were putting the car on the tow truck, which explains why he even said the car is in reverse and it says that it's not going anywhere, right? It said it covered no distance. And he says, when you have those high RPMs and the car's not going anywhere, that means your tire is spinning, which we have video of the tires spinning as the car is being reversed out of the driveway to be put onto the tow truck. But also, how could her tires be spinning in front of 34 Fairview if the snow hadn't covered the road? What are her tires spinning on? 1162 is when they put the car on the tow truck. That means 1161 is when her dad drives it to Dighton. 1160 is when Karen brings the car back home from Jen McCabe's house that morning, which means 1159 is when she drives to Jen McCabe's, which means 1158 would be the key cycle where they left the waterfall and they drove to 34 Fairview. Key cycle 1158 would, my guess, contain that 3-point turn that she made on Cedar Crest or whatever it's called. And it would contain allegedly some reversing where she would have allegedly hit John. Why haven't we seen any data from 1158? Or why haven't we seen 1168 where now that would have to be where Trooper Paul's testing took place? None of it adds up. And I'm running out of time, so I can't talk about how bad this guy's slides were. I would think instead of buying John's jeans and John's t-shirt, they should have spent money to hire an administrative assistant who knew PowerPoint and could make their slides for them, because this is a joke